Hey YouTube, I been running around in the Mustang a little bit, and it's been showing some issues, and I'm gonna go show you what those issues are. She's up on the lift for a reason. Everything looks pretty good there, right? I'll show you where it doesn't look good. Look. We're going under, going under, going under. Whoops, we're missing something. We done had a problem. I was took it out on the highway, did a bunch of front end work on it, did upper control arms, both sides. And I wanted to see how she went down the road. And I booted it. And when I booted it, the transmission started slipping more and more and more. So out came the transmission. That was a C4 that was in it. And while I was in here, I also saw some other things too. Hope that picks it up. But the car is a 72 and 71, 72. I don't even remember anymore. The code on the engine is C8, 1968. That's not right. But it does look like, when I take this off of here, this whole motor's been apart and someone's done stuff to it. So, I think, I'm trying to think of when 302 was, came in. Did it come in at 68 or 69? So it's either a 289 or a 302. So, pulled the trans out. It actually came out fairly well. Took only about 45 minutes. I did have the exhaust off to do new donuts, gaskets, so that's probably like the biggest thing that was an issue. And I just split the end of the pipe down there and wrapped it with a hammer back and forth and got that to come off. And just all the other stuff. There was a new starter on there, and of course popped the drive shaft out of it. So I looked into seeing what it would take to get a transmission. And let me back up. I pulled the tranny out of this one, and it was just baked, absolutely baked. It stunk to high heaven, and it was like stuttering going into second a little bit. You feel like a little bit of a, almost like a grind or a slip. So I did the old tighten the bands, and did a complete fluid change, drained the torque converter, but it didn't survive. The trans that came out of it has numbers on it, and if you look at them, D4 74. So this has been a hodgepodge of different parts gone into this car. I thought the drivetrain pretty much was original, but I did know it went to it was at a school that had the bodywork done. That's why the bodywork was kind of shoddy. And I have a feeling that they pulled the trans and the motor, and also did educational stuff on both of those. So if you remember some of my first videos, when I bought it, I knew I had a trans leak. But what I think was going on was they kept running it. It was leaking fluid out of the O-ring on the dipstick tube. I fixed that and tightened up the pan gasket, stopped leaking. But I think they kept running it low, and that probably starved it and caused it to get overheated at some point and burned out the clutch pack. So, having said that, I'm a cheap bastard, and they wanted $750 to have the trans rebuilt with a new torque converter, which isn't bad, but I just don't feel like spending the money. I went on Craigslist and got this ugly looking beast. It is also a C4. It's a 1970 C4. The only difference being it is out of a full-size car instead of a what do you want to call it, a Mustang, a compact. So if you look at that bell housing, and then that bell housing is much larger than that bell housing. And with that came a larger torque converter, a larger flywheel, and something else. So she's going to be a little tight trying to get it, the hump. If you look at it right here, this area right here is going to be real close to the top of the tunnel. As where you see this one, it drops right down and then tucks in. The linkages pretty much look the same. They both have that bar going the same place for the floor shifter. He said he had the trans in a 70 Mustang, but he just had to bump up the floor just a little bit on the top of the tunnel. I may or may not even try that ahead of time. The trans was good. He had a shift kit and everything put in it. They had gone through it, and then they had wrecked the car. They pulled the engine and trans out of the car, and the engine and trans sat wrapped up in the yard. It was still connected to the motor when I got there for the last 20 years. So $80 later, I got another transmission. I was going to try to do a rebuild on this trans, but my feeling was this: if it went to a school and they tore it apart, I would be real good. I've never done one, but I would be real good at tearing it apart, doing explosive view, rebuilding each section and reassembling it the way it came apart. But if there's a thrust washer or a spool or something that's in backwards, I'm not going to catch it. So I just didn't want to take the chance of tearing into this trans and going through the whole process, putting it all back together and having the thing shit to bed again. Plus, there was some metal sitting in the pan, and I'm not sure where metal would come from on a automatic. So something was grinding away, and you could actually hear once in a while it would make a large grinding sound when you got on it. I still had first gear, but I was on the highway, and I was about 8 miles from the house, and I was just babying the thing to get home. I was down to like 35 on the highway getting home, but I did make it without getting towed, and drove it into the garage, put it up on the lift, and just kind of stared at it. But this is pretty much all I think I'm going to do today. I have a car show tomorrow to go to, car show swap meet they call it, and it's in Amherst, New Hampshire, and it's fairly large. I'm probably going to do a little video of that, a little walk around, and I may still try to locate a correct trans. If I find one that's there that has that same profile to it that mine has, I'll go with that just for, you know, maybe ease. The only thing I think I may have an issue with, well, a couple of things, but I was looking at my exhaust, how it comes around this side of the motor and how tight it is on the side of the bell housing, and I just don't want to start getting into all those pieces, one thing and then another thing and another thing. Before you know it, you gotta modify half a dozen things before you can get to, you know, it would have been easier just to try to find the right thing. But this is what I was able to find on Craigslist for now, and I'll see how I make out with that, and hopefully to get everything back together, get it running again. There was one other thing I was going to talk about. Of course, I can't remember what it was. Oh, I remember what it was. Even if I don't use this trans, as far as what I did my homework, this is supposed to be a good one because it's an H model trans, and I guess they're heavy duty, good for drag racing. They seem to hold up fairly well, they're saying. So I can always get my money back out of it, whereas this one has an A written on it. So other than that, the car was doing pretty good. Didn't have any complaints about the rest of the drive line. Just the fact that she doesn't want to move. It's a slight problem. So thanks for watching, and again, I'll make that other video tomorrow on how to that swap meet that I have, and if I get enough time in the afternoon, I'll put this car back together, and maybe we'll do a little joyride video, or a little video of me crying because it didn't fit. Alright, take care.